Welcome, everybody, to the very start of the Contenders Summer Series. I'm Tiny Shiny with Soav Danum, and we are stoked to bring you some of the first matches that we have to offer here. We're opening it up with Timeless taking on Dragon Dance here, and there's such an interesting path that these teams have taken to get to these spots in Contenders, and now here they are starting to fight it for it all within the Summer Series.
And we get the shot to look at them from this co-stream and really kind of evaluate. And, let's get a look at all the matches that are coming up today, because like you said, that is the first one. You'll see us for match 2, also that, where we see Good Boys versus Dragon Dance as well. But, this is the first match for NA. If you caught us earlier over on UU, you saw some of the great action ahead. But there is still plenty of stuff. And like you said, this opening round really has a lot of question marks attached to it from both of these teams.
It does, especially when you look at Dragon Dance here. They're coming into this spot. They weren't really originally part of that 16 teams. They kind of took bits and pieces from other contenders and high-level collegiate rosters that you see out here. So there isn't as much cohesion that we usually see with these contender teams that either have grinded their way through open division or that they've just been together for so long and they're able to keep these main stable foundations in. So Dragon's Dance is definitely one of those larger question marks today, along with some other pieces of Timeless that have been new additions to their roster, starting to get those implemented and proving what impact they're going to be able to have on the outcome for this team. Because Timeless has just been one of those teams that has been super consistent throughout the past. They've placed both second and third in previous contenders runs as well. So seeing them back here today, this is their chance. They want to get that first place. They've made some adjustments, and we're gonna have to go and see if these are the ones that they really needed to make coming in here. We'll go ahead and start by taking a peek at their roster, as a matter of fact, and see what they have going.
Yeah, we've got Clear, we've got Wub. I can't see that other one. That middle one is blocked for me, unfortunately. But we've got Scuffed and Sobek picking up the support line. And Scuffed is kind of the one I really wanted to talk about here. We were looking over this roster, and Scuffed kind of came out to us as a face that I feel like I'd heard the name before, but we can't find anything. There's not really a history on them. So I'm really curious to see, as a newer pickup, what this member of the support line will do. The other name worth calling out here is Wub. Wub has been a good player. You say what you want about the Paris Eternal. They had a rough go of it, and he was a part of that. But he is still a phenomenal long-range hit scan player. So he realistically has a lot more to prove if he wants to get back in there. So I'm really watching on those two players to make sure that they can, to see what they show and to try to get themselves back up into Overwatch League.
This is their shot. Like I said, they've gotten all of those different pieces together. They still have that stable foundation, of course. You still have Cuff on that roster. You have Clear as well. This tank line has remained rather consistent, but seeing those new additions as well, Wub being one of them. And I want to talk about Pummy a little bit, too. Pummy is coming in. He's been very talented throughout the season, been on Trick Room, who has participated in quite a few of the programs, as well as was on Team India for the Overwatch World Cup as well, who barely missed out on getting that spot to that next stage. So we all know that the talents that this player has, and seeing them on this roster now with Timeless, surrounded by those players that really have the ability to kind of boost them up. That's a performance that I'm really looking out to see, and whether that will be on the DPS or the support actually is branded as both a flex support and a hit scan DPS player. So another little piece of curiosity to kind of keep in mind out.
Maybe on the other side, you alluded to this, but Dragon Dance picking up that spot from the Redbirds, from the collegiate Redbirds, it's really a big question mark, because there's a couple of members of the Redbirds in Moving Fish and I believe it was Noxious, who are carrying over from ISU. But the rest of these names are, we've seen them. Petal's a phenomenal hit scan player over for Dallas. There's players from all across the collegiate. So there's, in this way, almost like a collegiate super team coming together. But it was thrown together. It feels so last minute. They only finally got their social medias up, the last couple of days. So I'm very curious to see what this level of talent at the collegiate level can do, kind of thrown together in a pickup squad style.
We don't doubt the individual talent at all. The only question does come down to is how well is this teamwork in place? Has this been a team that's been consistently practicing? How new are they realistically coming into this? Because right now, we look at Dragon Dance, we see it was almost rushed as that spot just ended up opening up towards the tail end. And a lot of these players, their experience, they have all of this skill, but Can they put it together in a team? I mean, not only is Overwatch reliant on each player's individual mechanical abilities, their understanding of the game, but also can they work with their teammates? Have they been practicing these comps and have they figured out what works the best for them? And Dragon Dance is definitely that team to kind of test it out. And I mentioned them more as kind of a wild card heading into this, especially.
Yeah, especially speaking of wildcard, it's Antarctic Peninsula for our control map. And,
Wow.
it's still a little bit of a, it's not solved yet. This is, I think, that the most interesting thing about Antarctic Peninsula is a lot of the other control maps, you kind of know what you're expecting. And we still know that, like, the Ramatra Rush is really strong on several of these subpoints. But given the prevalence of this, Winston Tracer Sombra dive, I almost wonder if these teams are more focused on that cohesion of the dive and may just forego the Ramatra kind of brawl that you see on a couple of these subpoints.
Because in both ways, whether you're doing the Ramatra dive or just kind of going with more of this Winston Sombra Tracer thing, I feel like that more teams recently have been leaning kind of towards that dive style, because a lot of these points, they're so open that either you need to fall and commit to a rush and you're attacking at an angle, but inevitably, in my opinion, it's just seems better to go along the lines of maybe trying a wrecking ball, that Winston having out, and as I say that, this is the map that you would probably want to run that more brawly top position on, as you see both Moving Fish and Kuppa teasing those Ramatras out the gate.
Yeah, and I think the other thing worth keeping out here is Petal over on the Sojourn versus Wub on the Hanzo. Hanzo just a lot more burst potential, a lot more just the ability to kind of maybe get a pick and find the value on it with that dive, versus Dragon Dance and Moving Fish particularly over on this Ramatra. This is gonna try to find those isolations and gonna try to control the space a lot more differently. So it's gonna be a tale of two playstyles going into this. They'll pick up the Tracer to round it out, and that is gonna be a tough dive for Timeless to really kind of get into.
Realistically, who are you going on here? Are you looking for Petal with all those cooldowns out? Are you putting the pressure onto Shaq, which actually seemed to be the case, but Kuppa not going to want to hang around. This high ground belongs to Dragon Dance, but losing Shaq, Wub with a straight arrow, finding the face of the main support, and that's going to be no more stabilization for the rest of the Dragon team on that high ground. Timeless, they need to find these windows of opportunity again, and that is exactly why you run the Hanzo.
Yeah, that's exactly what they're looking for out of it. They did manage to get that high ground control for Dragon Dance first, but that dive was just very well placed from Kuppa. Come in, separated the back line. That's the difference of the Baptiste, and he'll make the swap to the Moira there. And that was the original goal, was just isolate the Baptiste healing from everybody else and then capitalize on it. Now with the Moira, there's a little more flexibility. It's going to be harder, even harder now to isolate. So with the Reaper as well, this dive becomes even more difficult to execute.
Another thing that you're adding on to this. I mean, Kuppa's not going to want to get anywhere near anybody on Dragon Dance realistically, like touch the ground for a second before leaping up to the air. Doesn't even have the health to sustain them. Look at the pressure onto that Winston. Scuffed is doing such an incredible job keeping Kuppa alive through this. Time was half the point, but they ended up giving it up. And that's the difficult part. They don't have any staying power. They need to find these eliminations, and it came off of a headshot from Wub, which you're not going to get anytime soon, so you looked at Doomed. Beautiful stick with the pulse bomb. We're going to follow it up with some more. Kind of poking and prodding at the back at Pebble. This is Timeless, biding their time, waiting, playing the patient game. The caution here that they're taking is just so impressive, and it's winning them these fights.
Those longer fights will always go their way, especially with this rotation between the Nano, the Winston, and then everything else that goes with it. You're really just counting on your DPS to kind of get those picks while everybody's watching Kuppa go in, and it worked in their favor. Nano is up for them also. Dragon Strike is there, but that's probably going to be used just more to separate. So really am watching how Kuppa takes advantage of this Nano in place, because there are several ultimates against them, especially Moving Fish's Annihilation to shut that down.
So many things that are going the way of Dragon Dance here, and it's not starting off well for Timeless. The Winston falling over. They're not going to have too much opportunity to get themselves stabilized. Dragon Dance using very minimal resources in this battle. Moving Fish, marching on the high ground is exactly what you needed to do if you're Dragon Dance.
Yeah, it was a little bit later than I thought they might have committed it, but I do think it was the right call, and lucky for Timeless, they did not commit Nano into that. They recognized they had the advantage, so 68 on the board means that they are ready to close this out. They still have Nano, they have Sound Barrier, Pulse Bomb, like the ultimates are in their favor. Dragon Dance holding onto that Sound Barrier of their own. They're still a little short from Blizzard, but they just have the more aggressive ult, so they have to capitalize on this dive.
Yep, you need to be getting in there if you're Timeless right now. Do not let this point go up as much longer as it is. Petal beginning the attack, just decided to fit the Death Blossom. That Sound Barrier, risky as it might have been. Timeless utilize both their support ultimates here. They gotta make this one count. Onda is out of the battle. Shaq to follow. The coordination here from Doomed and Kappa to take out these targets worked out beautifully. Petal, realistically, the only one still standing on this objective, and Dragon Dance found themselves the victim without the defensive ultimates. They're committing both the Sound Barrier and the Blizzard. I don't know about this. I really don't know about that. So I'd actually know what I do know. That was not the play you wanted to make in that situation unless you're making a full swap.
Yeah, that was a rough call. You're probably going to want a refund on that, and I mean that makes sense. They're giving it up anyways. Excal going to pick up the Sombra. They're going to move to basically kind of match the dive now. It's the right call. You're getting bullied on what you should be countering, so you have to match this up. Timeless does have this primal, so they'll be able to find an isolation with it. There's nothing to stop it here, so there should be Timeless's chance to close it out.
Yep, Timeless on final fight, assuming they win this next one, and Kappa already going in, arms a-swinging, finding the Lucio back in the corner. Petal already forced out of that Ray form. Look at the pressure on there. The peel from Shaq is managing to keep the Reaper in the battle for now, but can't say the same for Onda. Leap it after that Lucio player, not going to be skating away anytime soon, as Timeless has turned the clock down to 0. Shaq, only one left remaining with this Coalescence, and not too much really left to do with it. Beautiful stick on to Petal to close this one out. Timeless started this one off pretty rough, but the fact that they were able to counter a composition, or win against a composition that should have completely countered them, is a statement to open us up here.
Yeah, that's a team that has truly put their time and energy into working on this comp. And the one player that I think, you know, if you've been watching the kill feed, you've seen it as much as I have, is Doomed. Doomed has been putting in so much work. Every single one of those pulse bombs, I believe, stuck. And that's really what you need out of your Tracer. You need those individual picks, those individual moments where you can trade that out. And Timeless just looks like a well-oiled machine going into this. Now, as we move on to Icebreaker, we are going to see their Ramachas come out. This is where I expected to see them, honestly. This is where I expected to see that. So Dragon Dance may have a little advantage going into this. They showed this first. They really wanted to show this and work on this first. I think the question mark, again, is going to come down to this Sojourn versus Wub's Hanzo, because Sojourn has a little bit more speed control, but Hanzo just has a lot more pick power, and sometimes that's all it takes is just one extra pick to kick it off.
All you need. That's what one Timeless, that first fight, was that straight arrow from Wub. Wanting to replicate that again, but you see how far back that Hanzo is actually playing, just trying to poke in and out, find these angles, but it's actually Doomed who ends up going down first. No wall in the way of Dragon Dance. They're not afraid anymore, so Kappa is just essentially getting walked on. That 60% damage reduction, doing quite a bit to keep the Ramatra alive, and Timeless able to barely keep everybody out and alive safely. Kappa, though, not going to do the same. That's a stagger pick that's really going to hurt, but a necessary one after Onda fall.
Yeah, that is worth it. You'll push ahead and take that if you're Dragon Dance, and you'll lead the way with your ultimates, and you're pretty happy with that. You now have control of this high ground. That's going to be so important. And, I mean, Doomed has been throwing out those Mei walls pretty aggressively, trying to find an isolation. So they're watching. They're knowing they can capitalize on that. And that's both Mei's cooldowns right there. They're going to probably push on that.
You want to put this high ground is making it difficult for Timeless to want to walk. These ice walls kind of sandwiching this choke point once again. Moving Fish found themselves in a situation they didn't think they did. Timeless forcing themselves through this slight open window to take advantage of it. But speaking of windows, there's a Matrix on the field. Jack laid it down. Sobek had no time to react, instantly fell. Now Timeless, they don't have their tool to get around the map. They're just sitting behind this Ant Matrix, hoping for Wub ideally to get a pick off here. But as soon as that expires, you still don't have that support power. And no longer, Moving Fish isn't afraid to watch forward, push with advantage. It's just more time bought and wasted.
I mean, Timeless did manage to get the high ground for a moment there, but they used all their resources to get it. They'll commit Annihilation too, Tiny. Both sides.
They're trying to do this, and I mean, Kappa used that way after Moving Fish did, Soeb. I mean, in that situation, you know you're going to lose that fight. If this is another switch coming out, I would be a little surprised. But I mean, right now, something's got to change for Timeless.
I mean, the good news for them is they do have Sound Barrier. They'll have Dragons up. It's their only real shot. They'll have Blizzard as well, but they're matched on both sides, Tiny, so they really have to. Oh, never mind. Wub just opened it right up, so if they move aggressively, they can pick on this.
Oh, Wub is just like, you know what? You need something to happen? I got you, team. Immediately chucks in that arrow. Dragon Strike soon to follow. Is enough to get through the Blizzard. Onda and Sobek have those sound barriers in play. Now it's just a matter. Timeless was slightly later, so they're going to have that shield health, and they manage to squeak away the point. Doom sees everyone out cornered. A perfect opportunity for a Blizzard to be thrown out. Shaq able to escape its grasp, but not barely. Doom still on them, taking out the Baptiste. Still was able to traded out. Petal is still alive in front of an Ant Matrix. Moving Fish still there. How are they coming back in this? Dragon Dance should not have won this. This was Timeless's fight to lose.
They had it in their hand. That late Blizzard ended up being their downfall there, and that was probably something they would have wanted for this last retake. They'll have to go into this with just that Ant Matrix, and they'll have to move it up. Kuffa's going to pick up the Reinhardt here, meaning they are just going to go full on in. Doomed on this flank here, though, means that they can try to catch an isolation as overtime hits.
Doomed is out there and Sobek going down. That is not a good start for Timeless here on the retake. All you can do, rally behind that amplification matrix, maybe chuck a fire strike through, get something done, but Dragon Dance have been on this objective. This is their composition, so that's what I'm learning.
Yeah.
When Moving Fish is on this Ramatra, they're able to feel comfortable. The only thing to change that is Wub hitting these nice headshots that it's just not enough. Not enough can be done from the Hanzo player to turn these points around, and that is going to give Dragon Dance that .3 that they've been wanting.
It was in their favor, right? Like, we saw them open up on this. This was obviously the comp they wanted to play and what they're most comfortable on. And I think if you're Timeless, you're probably thinking, all right, the worst is over, right? Like, we're not going to play the Ramatra. We can play our dive again here over on map 3 because there's still space to move around. You still have to control that very important high ground there on the inside. But I mean, at this point, if you're Timeless, I can't imagine you're going to try to match them. Dragon Dance did outplay you a little bit, and maybe it was a little, maybe there's a little bit of an error, a couple errors here and there, but, I have to imagine you maybe are questioning, we might want that dive back. Wub, again, probably going to pick up on that Hanzo, and, there's still an argument to be had. Like, Wub has hit some incredible headshots and opened up a lot of it, but I do think that Petal has just gotten more raw value between the field that is controlling the space. Hitting that, by the way, that was a 3K rail overclock. Just throwing that out there. But, I mean, those two DPS are the ones I'm watching to really decide this.
And you can already tell, Sobek didn't play that cautiously. Fell to just a sliver of HP there. So this is something that Timeless need to be cautious of. Petal has been a consistent thorn in their side, or quite literally in their side, on these flanks, holding these angles so well that there isn't really much that Timeless can do about it. They need to be cautious and play around that. Put a counter there. Not allow that to go through. Don't let yourselves get separated either. Robe gets that pick off in time, and Doom somehow managed to live. That ice block really helping them out. They looked doomed themselves in that situation, but Dragon Dance, they're now the ones on the back pedal, trying to get out alive. Moving Fish a little bit stuck on this objective. The healing barely coming in. Immortality Field gonna be the last straw, though, for the Ramatra. Timeless will be grabbing that first capture and looking for some cleanup kills after.
Yeah, but they'll get out. And I mean, I was a little concerned there, Tiny, because Wub hit that opening shot, and that's not the first time we've seen that. That's, the second, third time that's happened. But the collapse and realization that there's a 5v4 that they need to capitalize on just never came. Doomed is holding on to, is coming into their Blizzard, but, that early Blizzard from Excal is going to do some damage here. Oh, they managed to escape it.
But they all got out! That between the speed amp and, well, and from Wub, you had that Swift Step coming out, so those Blizzards not going to get much of anything on either side. You do manage to grab Excal, though, so that's something you go ahead and take, but Doom loses their mate as well. Nice shot from Petal to keep them in the game, barely squeaking away from the damage. The M-Matrix all the way back
That's so far back.
here. Wow, Timeless is so happy about that one.
Oh yeah, you just bought that for free, and you now have point on it. Kuffa did manage to build up Annihilation first. They have to move aggressive here between these three ults.
Yeah, this is their time to go on through. The sound barrier incredibly necessary, considering that overclock and the fire powder. Petal has their grass magic has stuck on that last shot. Will be traded out, but I think the Baptiste here is by far the more valuable pick. It's going to be a messy fight to close this one out. Wub hitting on sub 50 HP here. Just trying to find these angles, not taking anything too cautious, Timeless, or in control of that objective. They're waiting for that opportunity to go back in. The fact they don't have a take is gonna hurt here. Wub, nice shot onto Shaq. If Wub manages to stay alive, they can easily push back in soon.
They have to move quick. I mean, Wub keeps finding these openings, but again, there's no place to capitalize on it. They'll give up the space for the Hanzo, but they're not going to get the cap. They still are at 70%, and I mean, sound barrier's coming in for Onda. That's going to be their key to success here. Expect to see that coming in the second they get it online and feel the aggressive space.
Yeah, especially since Dragons, they give up the point and they lose Excal, so now you have the sound barrier to compensate for the loss of the Mei. Get yourself back on that objective, and Timeless, they don't have too much of anything in the bank right now. You're maybe looking at an Ant Matrix and Scuff if this one goes on long, but at this point, there's no need to really use it. Dragon Dance, they're on the back foot. Moving Fanch is staying alive in this strict corner, but once that power block goes down, big trouble is spelled out for that Ramatra.
Yeah. That late pick is so important. It's 95. There's nothing here. The Dragons will separate, and I mean, there'll be a last second touch. Never mind. Wub's just going to end that. So Timeless cleaning that up. Very.
Wow.
I mean, we wondered if this was going to be Dragon Dance's comp, right? If they could they were just going to storm their mantra, and they proved that Timeless proved that they don't need to. They proved that they, maybe just needed a round to warm up. And shout out to Wub here. He's looked incredible. He's opened up so many of these fights, and it has done so much for their team. The Hanzo versus the Sojourn really showing the difference between, especially in the hands of Wub, who, as like we've seen him, he's a very capable long-range hit scan player.
Oh, incredibly. And the amount of impact that Wub really had, not only in turning these fights around, but kind of sneaking their way through this tiny crack that Timeless were struggling to find. I mean, you look all the way back to that first round there, when you're running this dive comp into arguably one of the hardest things to try to dive on. There's no good target, so you're looking at Wub. That's your guy to get something done, to hit these headshots from across the map. And with the consistency that he was able to just snag Shaq out of the air on several occasions, that worked out so incredibly well for them. And Timeless, they were able to win that map, and even took it to him on what we thought was going to be Dragon Dance's comp, which really is a way to say, hey, this is our strength too. They just needed a little bit more time to get that adaptation in play. And I think this leads us back to that point that we started at the very beginning of this match, is where does Dragon Dance stand in terms of that team play? And we've seen a lot of individual moments, I think, but we haven't exactly seen that same coordination that we have out of Timeless, and I think that's going to lead to their downfall, at least in this map 1. And if we don't see something change coming up into these next couple of maps, I believe we're looking at the same kind of storyline.
It's hard not to agree with you, honestly, because the Ramatra comp is arguably a little bit easier to run and kind of manage as a team unit, so you should be able to put those pieces together, but those individual pop-off moments always never came at the right time. And as we move over to Eichenwald, this is still like a pretty dive-centric, safe map. You could run the Ramatra here, but I have to imagine that if you're Timeless, you're fine to pick up Winston, especially for point 2. Your comp works well there. You've shown that you've won that mirror. I mean, if you're Dragon Dance, are you really going to keep trying to push that Ramatra comp out, especially on a map like this? Like, Wub can play Pharah. He has a very, very good Pharah in his pocket, so you have to be prepared for that kind of swap in.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that make me question why Eichenwald of all of the maps. So this one, the dive centric. If you want to run the Ramatra, this really isn't the spot to do so. So in my mind, this is what tells me, all right, we're gonna try something different, do something new, and that's gonna be the thing that will allow them to edge over Timeless. Because there were definitely points they did manage to take away Icebreaker towards the end. That wasn't exactly close either when they're playing in these tight quarters that you are in that map. Eichenwald, you don't have that, so you're sitting at the same advantage almost as you would look like in a map such as Lab. So what are you cooking, Dragon's Dance? That's really what you got me wondering here. What is your initial plan?
I mean, you have to go, like, you kind of just have to play the Winston Sombra, like, Tracer at this point, right? Like, you have to just kind of match that. It's shown to be one of the strongest comps. You kind of have to expect most people are playing it. The mirror will always be a challenging matchup for you, but like you said, if you can't win with your anti-dive, you're just going to have to play their game. So, I mean, once the gates hit, it's going to be a question mark. The other thing I want to bring up really quickly is one of the other players from Dragon Dance, I believe, was Shaq, that we were kind of keeping an eye on. Relatively fresher face, who has put in a lot of work over on that Baptiste. Granted, had a lot of losses to Wub at moments, but on the whole had been putting a lot of work in keeping that keeping their team up as a Baptiste. Those great amp matrices, really those flex support player who we kind of, this was the other question mark we never really got to talk about, really putting in quite a bit of work on the support line.
And it was interesting because Shaq was also labeled as a retired player who hasn't been around for quite some time. So newer face, or rather newer older face, I guess you could put it that way. Shaq did an incredible job for what we saw being played out there. Like, the amount of times that moving fish got walled off, got isolated, and suddenly there's these immortality fields flying in from who knows where. Clearly, Shaq had an idea of what was going on in that team, no matter how split they ended up going. If Petal was on the flank, somehow, some way, that healing was there. So the Baptiste was able to play that integral role that was necessary within that composition. And, that brings up the point of, if you're able to play with this Baptiste, how can you make Shaq's job easier? Please make Shaq's job easier. That guy put in a mountain of work on that map, and I'm hoping on Eichenwald, where you're playing a little bit more closer, especially when you're trying to push on these objectives, that would be the time that you can really prove how you're going to do it. Of course, there are substitutes as options within the lineup, which I do wonder if that's where we go next. If there's both of these rosters are rather large,
Yeah.
so I've been, bringing in a substitute to possibly switch up this composition, move away from that Ramatra would be my next thought.
Yeah, I was wondering that too, because Moving Fish, more known for their off-tank players, this may be a time, you bring in your Winston player. If you don't think you're going to run the Ramatra, maybe now you bring in, I believe it was Sadiq, who's more of a main tank player for the Redbirds. Maybe you bring him in. Maybe this is the time you show the rest of that hand and show what the depth of your playbook. Otherwise, because the other side, you have a whole player dedicated to Flex and Pummy. Like, you never really know what Pummy is going to be doing, and put in some great work on round 1. Maybe they'll be somewhere else in round 2.
It would be very interesting to see. I mean, Pummy did an excellent job as well on that side, and I do want to see that kind of kept up throughout that. And Wub and Doomed together, I do want to.
They're a great duo.
Talk about this a little more. They're a great duo, and we talked about Doomed a little bit before, but we didn't really mention the synergy that Doomed really showcased with their tank player there. I mean, the fact that Doomed was following up on these dives, getting those eliminations on the Tracer, which is exactly what you need to be doing. And this all stems all the way back to that communication that we were talking about at the very beginning of this match. And the communication that we weren't sure was going to be there from Dragon's Dance, and from what we just saw, it's not on that same level from Timeless. So hopefully moving to a new map and perhaps a new composition, we can start to see more of these puzzle pieces fall into place, actually make that picture come alive the way they want it to.
Let me ask you this, because I mentioned this before, but I know I've seen this in the past. How do you feel about Pharah used to be such an integral point of attack on Eichenwald A. Do you think it comes out from Wub and the attack, and do you think that that's something they use to their advantage? Because that is, it still does work. These are pretty high-level hit scans. These guys can take down Pharah no problem. But I mean, do you think it's something that maybe they'll dig into?
Interesting when people bring up Pharah Mercy, because I say Pharah Mercy because you just don't run a Pharah without a Mercy.
Yeah.
And I'm not necessarily saying that the Pharah is going to be the issue, but more whenever I see these plays, it's the rest of the team. If you're going to run a Pharah Mercy, you have 2 players in the sky, you got 3 on the ground. Can that one support get these other 2 players alive? You're playing in 2 separate units either the other option, you can collapse on that those extra 3 players. If you can't get the Pharah out of the sky, they're not doing enough work, then that's going to happen. And I really think it's that true Glass Canyon play. Wub is a player, though, that is extremely talented with the Pharah. If you can give that player the proper support, I do believe he will be able to succeed in that regard. However, I do question whether the rest of the team will be able to push on that sufficiently enough to actually validate all of those resources being put into one player.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, Wub has been phenomenal on the Hanzo. Do you even want to take him off at that point, too?
Exactly.
I mean, yeah, like it's hard to really even say like, well, let's just go play the Pharah here. Wub has been opening up and hitting first bloods, multiple fights in a row. So realistically, it's going to be very interesting. And I want to highlight again, the Wub versus Petal matchup there, because that is 2 different takes on how to play the similar comp. And I really do think that neither one has a distinct advantage, but I do think that each one really is working for their particular team style.
I can 100% get on that train. You look at the Hanzo versus the Sojourn, almost. I mean,
Yeah.
Wub, you have the ability to get these one-shot pickoffs. While Petal has that as well, it doesn't come as easily. Petal, though, has this more consistent chip damage that you really like to see from these DPS players. You have that higher mobility, so you're more often going to see a Sojourn on a flank versus the Hanzo kind of sitting in the back line, chucking these arrows down the main point, getting these one-off headshots, RNG or not, they are there. So Hanzo just chucking tree logs down the point. You look at Petal playing that Sojourn. We saw a lot of points where Petal did kind of go for these plays around the back, whether not only just to touch the point at the end there, but specifically on Icebreaker. We did see a couple of those times where, especially with that 3K, able to come up in the clutch. This isn't something that either of these players lack. They both have that clutch factor in both of those areas, and that is what makes them so incredibly good, and this matchup even more interesting, because while they're on different heroes, they're both still able to find that almost equal amount of value that they're trading blow for blow.
Well, I think the other thing you touched on there that's making the difference is the positioning of it all, right? When it came to Icebreaker, controlling that high ground really just fell into Timeless's lap for the most part. They were able to get control of that and able to fight through it. Once they were able to for Dragon Dance, they were able to just get control of that slightly higher ground and be able to control and corral the rest of Timeless where they wanted to do. And that kind of maneuverability is what you really need in these comps. If your hit scans don't have the space to kind of take those angles or the space to get those logs down main, it's going to be even more difficult. And that comes to, again, just how is the rest of your team rotating and cooperating? Are you taking the space and supporting properly? So I'm really watching these two teams, especially because of how Eichenwald is. It's so important to maintain spaces like the high ground in B, or those particular like corners and chandeliers in C. This kinds of space control is going to come down and really make the difference between these two teams.
And that's the thing. I think you look at, going back to the Wub and Petal matchup, how did the teams play around them? That's kind of what almost determined that outcome there. And positioning on control maps is much different than it is on hybrid. So we always say that there's like the control map first, where one team will win that first map, and then moving forwards, it can kind of turn out to be a 3-1 like that, because these maps just play so incredibly differently, and you need to be communicating. Where are you going? Where is this high ground more important right now? Can we get an ability down the high ground? Are we going to force them off the positioning, make them come into us? And it's a lot of these larger communication pieces that decide the tempo of the game. How are you going to take those fights? How are you giving Wub and Petal these opportunities to succeed? Because if you're not setting up these star players, then it's going to make their job so much more difficult, and overall your team is going to suffer from it.
Yeah, realistically, that is going to be the difference maker, and especially you said star power. Like, this team is not short of star power. I was half joking when I said that this is a collegiate, super team in some ways, but Petal on University of Dallas is insane. You have players from University of Ohio. You have 2 of the Redbirds players. These are teams that are consistently ranked in the top 5, top 10 teams for collegiate Overwatch. And that kind of star power really does build up. Even if they've, even if it's their first shot in Contenders, it is a different level, but it's a level they're aware of. They're used to playing with this much on the line. They're used to sitting here and thinking, we need to represent our school, we need to represent our team. Now it's just playing for yourselves, and that star power really has the chance to shine in a different stage of Contenders, especially now that you've made it to this finite, top 8 level. This is really that chance to pull it all together.
It truly is. And you look at the lines between collegiate and Contenders, they're starting to blur a little bit more. A lot of these players are very successful within the collegiate scene, and here they are on these more star-powered teams that we're seeing right now, with several of those pieces coming into play. And this is something that I do really like to see, just in general for the scene, and that these players, they're able to have this opportunity to prove themselves and their skills with this consistent experience that they're able to get. I mean, not only in Contenders, but a lot of these players, they have experience within Open Division. They have experience with their schools that they're competing with, whether it's in these leagues against very high-level collegiate competition, or you're going to these LAN events. You know how to play as a team, and that is one of the biggest skills that you just take time to learn. It takes time. It takes experience. And with the level of experience that these players are coming in with, I can't really think of one in here that is completely brand new, completely fresh face. I mean, they've been around. They know how this works.
I don't know. Our retired player might be the question mark, I think, to that. Because, like, if you retire,
the old
new player here, like, we don't actually know what that's about. But, still, like, but that, again, that speaks to the difference of, how do you bring in and who are your leaders? Because Kuffa, led Team Australia recently in World Cup. Moving Fish, one of the prominent members on ISU. Those are leaders in the tank position that know exactly what they're doing. And this isn't what I expected to see, Tiny. This is not what I was expecting to see here. Dragon Dance, no, I'm sorry, that is going to be, Timeless is going to open up with the Ramatra Brawl, and Dragon Dance is going to pick up the Winston Sombra dive, which is what I was I expected this to be flipped. I expected Timeless would be playing more into that. So I do give it that the Ramatra is the better, I guess, defensive comp in some ways, but I don't know. I'm really curious to see how Dragon Dance's dive played out, because this is the comp I wanted to see from them, and I'm really curious to see how this execute is going to go, because they've been playing Brawl this whole time, and this is a different game now.
Completely different game that they're going with, and like you said, Moving Fish, known for their off tank, so seeing them on the Winston isn't something we're necessarily unfamiliar with, but it could also be borderline considered out of their comfort zone. And if you're going to run the Winston, you need to be mindful of where Kuffa is pushing. If Scuffed or Sobek here get caught up on their own, or even Moving Fish, for example, they're just going to walk right in. Kind of take advantage of that beautiful sleep. It's a Petal. Wow, completely saved the Brigida's life, and this was Dragon Dance. They gave it a good shot. They got a couple picks along the way, but Timeless, they're ready for this. This comp is so much harder to run into a Ramatra.
Yeah, worth noting, Pummy coming in over on the DPS to pick up the Tracer. That is one of their known heroes. We have seen them play that in the past, so Doomed taking a break there. Very interested to see that come through. Kuffa already at 80% of that Annihilation. That's wild. That is already basically a one fight. So this Dragon Dance has to really maneuver this very, very just delicately here. They can't allow Kuffa to build up this annihilation because once that strikes, it's just game over. There's no defense to stop it.
Basically built that up in one fight, mind you. And this fight's already done. Wub just took out
Wub ended it.
Wub got back! Okay, yeah. This is what we're talking about. You give Wub the space to work, Wub's gonna go to work.
And that's really it. Wub has been playing that main tunnel the whole way through, knows and feels comfortable. Look how far up he knows that Kuffa's got his back there. So realistically, it's great. They will bring in now Excal going to pick up the Echo. And I like this. It's going to force him to look, but it's still 3 ultimates to get through. You still have 3 ultimates. You have to push through Tiny, and I don't think that's going to happen. Not with, I'm going to make it 4, you know, and Sobek's just behind. I don't think it's happening.
I'm really hoping that Dragon Dance recognize this and they either try to take a dry fight here or they full on commit, because right now this isn't going to go well from them. They're going to commit. I like the commit. You get the nano onto moving fish. You got 2, but Kuffa is also in your backline, got your main support. So Dragon Dance blows this out quickly because Wub is still alive. What a so happy. Wow, that shot right there keeps Timeless.
Oh!
But on the pedal. What is this? Is this Hanzo aimbot? What the fuck right now,
wow.
Wub? What are you doing?
Wub is out here making a name for himself and just saying, look, I'm still Overwatch ready. I'm still ready. Somebody pick me up here. I'm still good. That was 3-4 in a row. And again, that's your target. Wub needs to be your target. It's really enticing to go for a Shack, but you cannot allow Wub to continue to free fire into this. And Kuffa still holding on Annihilation means that they might get overwhelmed here, but it will not be easy.
I mean, look how fast Moving Fish got shredded just because of that damage between Kuffa and Wub coming in there. Kuffa, though, doesn't care about the wins. He's going straight for Shack, which dodge and weave all you want. Kuffa has got you in their sights. That tunnel vision coming in big. Still not done yet. Moving Fish stuck in the small room. No Ana to back them up. Just needs to go for the reset here. Only a minute remaining for Dragon Dance to come up with something. And right now, they only got the DCS ultimates to do it.
I mean, you're fine with that. Moving Fish is going to pick up the Ramatra, which I think, you have to play the game here. We'll make the full swap over. You're still behind the ball here. You have the duplicate. You have to build the duplicate Ramatra. I don't think there's a world where you can even consider picking anything else. It has to be duplicate Ramatra and build Annihilation as quick as you can. There's nothing in the way if you can hit it, but you also can't afford Excal to fall.
No, Excal needs to stay alive. You have that pocket onto the Echo. Putting that extra damage actually goes to the on the auto. Okay, I can actually see this going well here. Not a lot of players think about it. It's quite an underrated play, but if you can get a nano boost up, if you can get that thing in, but get so aggressive with that, you still can't walk into a mantra. You're not invincible. Shack goes down shortly after. The trade-off for Scuffed, it's there, but Kuffa has plenty of health to spare along the way, especially the support coming in from Pummy to get these players down. Wub with that final blow of the game. Dragon Dance, they got some progress, but Timeless didn't let them anywhere close to the objective in this latter half.
You at least that's a win con, right? Like that's at least a chance, and to get yourself down 50% is not much to scoff at. But I mean, that was a pretty definite hold from the back of Timeless, and particularly Wub, who again just uncontested, just never bothered free firing in, and man, like that is the key. You have to get Wub out of this zone because he is clearly just hitting those heads. He is having the time of his life in this game, and he's got something to prove. He's got a chip on his shoulder at this point. He wants to prove that he's still got it, and that the time in Contenders isn't just lost to playing and trying to grind his way back through. And he's showing it here. He'll go over to the Tracer as Timeless picks up that dive comp, and I mean this is what I would have expected from them. We've seen this in the previous rounds, even playing against the anti-dive. I think Timeless is primed to take this. They are just playing the dive a little bit better. Excal on the Echo, though, I don't hate it. I think it's an interesting little kind of change, but I'm just wondering if the Sombra, it's the question mark of the Sombra. The Sombra is so good and so important in this comp that I almost wonder, is this going to be a downfall choosing the Echo over the Sombra? Because Wub versus Petal on this Tracer is going to be quite a matchup, but Excal it just has to play a different game versus Pummy over on this Sombra.
It'd be kind of squishy, especially if you're putting that focus in with a Tracer and Sombra. You get a hack, Excal can't fly, and Wub can easily just scoot his way on in there and delete the flyers. So Dragon is especially Excal.
Already caught out.
You don't have these hacks to go through. Moving Fish had to commit all the resources just to get out, all the space gained off of one manual hack. So if that is all it took, this is the impact that Sombra has on the game right now. Pummy being that player, opening the door wide open to spot the Annika. Critical HP, what a pickoff! off from Pumpy. That's it right there.
That's
Timeless identified their targets. Their coordination is just on a different level, and Dragon Dance haven't been able to compete thus far, and they're not going to have another chance to do so on Eichenwald because Timeless are up 2-0 and on match points.
That is, that was rough. Like you said, one manual hack, not even like the most crucial ability. It was a singular manual hack that forced the Winston to give up the space and suddenly just gave Wub free reign to kind of go in a tracer, get a flank, caught the Ana, they caught the Ana from out there, and oh man, Wub just nasty. Look at that, that clip. Oh, oh, this is the 3 back-to-back, I believe. Yeah, what a great shot. Wub just absolutely putting on a clinic there on the Hanzo. But yeah, I mean, that was that clinical positioning that we were kind of talking about and really, kind of putting that emphasis on, because once you get those angles of control is when your Hanzo or your Sojourn, your long range, or even your flankers can really get that space. And something as simple as just getting pushed back by the Sombra making an appearance really does not bode well for the rest of the match.
It really doesn't. And this is what again we were alluding to is Dragon Dance, you are this new team. You are the one here that has these things to prove. You're coming into this just kind of scrapped together last second, trying to get these players to work together in some way, which while we've seen minimal success to it, this is just Timeless showing them how it's done. I mean, the communication, we mentioned, it's arguably easier to run this Ramattra composition, this brawl style, than you're trying to coordinate a dive onto one people with all these different moving parts with a Tracer, a Winston, and they just weren't able to do it. That manual hack, like, that is burned into my brain right now. Not a time and space. That was able to get them. That just shows you that that coordination has not been established yet, and they're doing their best to pick it up on the fly, but Timeless has just been a long-standing roster. You might have Pummy coming into this brand new to this play specifically, but not too competitive over Overwatch. And if you have just these foundations established, Timeless is proving how much of an impact, how much of a difference, like that is just setting miles between these guys.
I think the other thing that, in addition to the teamwork, and like Timeless has quite a lot of time to connect it to them, I think the other thing that we have to kind of look at this is Dragon Dance really has been kind of trying to sway from what is I want to call it the norm, but what is essentially, the suggested comps at this point. Trying to flip the Echo in there and trying to play the Sojourn, those aren't the standard things, and they probably are more comfort picks for them, and I really want those to be successful, but I just feel like you almost need, something like this. We saw look at how aggressive the Sombra played. Look at the value Sombra got by simply getting a single manual hack off. And Wub has proven just the one-shot potential from Hanzo alone, especially after all those nerfs. Widowmaker took a big hit from that. It's almost proving that you can't deviate from these norms just to provide for your own comfort in some ways.
I just make the point that a lot of these compositions, to make one that you are going to be successful on, to be a combination of what's good, what is that meta, but also where's your comfort zone at? Like for Petal, that's been that Sojourn, and for XL, it wasn't that Sombra, it was more on that Echo. And the problem with that is in this scenario specifically, when you're dealing with these players that are some of the best, you can't afford to sacrifice these things, such as that one-shot potential or just the utility you straight up get from those manual hacks. And this is something that is going to come back to bite them later. We know that they have some of these heroes under the belt, seeing them play within different scenarios, and whether that's in their comfort zone or not, they're trying to figure it out on the fly, and it kind of does show in the skill level that they have put together. And I think this next map is an interesting one that has been put out. I was able to catch a little bit of the warm-up that was going on from Dragon Dance in the beginning of it. They got the strong Widowmaker game. But the question is Wub here to match it today?
No. Wub's not going to match it. Wub's going to stay on Hanzo. He's on fire. Like, I would say, just as we say, just as I say, you don't deviate from the norm, Circuit Royale has its own meta in itself. You're going to see the Sigma. This is actually a place where I'm looking at this and I'm going like, all right, Moving Fish has an incredible, oh my gosh, I can't think of his name. Sigma, sorry. They have incredible Sigma. This is where I would expect something like that to shine. But Hanzo is just as good as Widowmaker here, and if they do take it, I wouldn't be shocked. There's still a range that you can get those headshots and you can find the value with it. But I wouldn't be shocked if the Hanzo came out. They are going to start on this, and Xcal going to try his luck on the Genji this time. I don't hate that. I don't hate that, but I do Like, if that's the right call versus the Sigma, I do think that's the right thing. Pummy going to pick up the Hanzo this time. They're going to play the double sniper to make this attack go. Shaq and Sobek picking up the Zenyatas as well. And, I mean, Onda on the Brig is an interesting one. That is a bit more defensive-based. You would expect to see the Brig more for flankers, which does help the Genji, but I do think that you'd almost rather just have the Baptiste in a lot of ways. I feel like you're kind of just expecting a lot of work to come out of this flanking from Excal, and that's going to be my question mark here, is how much value does Excal get on this Genji?
You're literally committing a whole support. Onda here is essentially a pocket
Yeah.
for this Genji. I mean, that is it. This guy's going to get no other value against double sniper poke comp. Like, Brigitte would almost be a throw pick if you weren't running Excel. So the Genji's got to do something. And what I'm thinking that something is applying that pressure onto Wub, onto Pummy, preventing them from hitting these shots, giving Petal the chance to kind of peek their head around the corner to find the head of Wub, ideally. So Dragon Dance, they're managing to work their way around this first corner. Timeless playing it rather safe. Clear 16 coming in as the substitute for the Sigma, that off-tank player. Nothing really too shocking there, but that is what we needed to see. Petal needs to grab the space, grabs it right there. Excel hasn't been doing the work, but Petal's got you covered. Not for long, though. Wub just found that opportunity, that thread in the needle around the corner, going for the jump shot now. Finds nothing back shield, and Excel finally grabbing that value, identified Wub, didn't have that mobility to keep moving on through, and that's Dragon Dance just walking straight through second point.
Yeah. I mean, like you said, that was exactly what Excal was trying to do. Was supposed to keep these snipers in check on the flankers. If that's a comfort pick, I'm not mad about that. I think that can work here, and it's showing it. They've got it basically here. I mean, the ultimates are coming in, though, and Onda is coming into rally. That's the thing I'm watching for. Excal just going to clean it up instead. That immortality field is gone, and that means that they are looking to push this past.
I mean, it's still winnable here, though, for Timeless. They managed to regroup. Sobek has this Transcendence online, but didn't end up using it to save clear 16. So Dragon Dance gonna go ahead, walk this point on through. Timeless gotta get that regroup in quickly, because they're looking at a rough next couple fights.
Yeah. Nah, by the time Sobek got that trance, it was already lost. It had ticked over, so there's no point. You take this last fight here, and I mean, Dragon Dance didn't, like you said, didn't commit anything. They'll have all 5. They'll have everything going into this, so the wealth in their hands. Timeless will have that trance and that Flux, but I mean, Flux is probably going to have to be used defensively here from Clear. You don't have enough offensive ults to really counter this out, and even those sites are just dangerous for Petal.
Doesn't even think about moving around that corner. Do I blame them? Absolutely not. I mean, Petal is a scary Widowmaker. Pummy, you are playing with fire, my friend, if you wanted to throw these shots out. Clear, though, opening the door, getting that Flux out. Doesn't get the elimination, but gives Wub that space to work. Transcendence out on the other side for Sobek to keep everybody up. Shaq didn't have the opportunity to minute, found their head rolling around the floor somewhere in Circuit Royale. Ona's going to be the one to try to stabilize this with Excal slicing through the opposition. Has to get Wub out of the battle here, but no! And Wub actually ends up getting Excal. What a shot! Shut this down. Wub single-handedly dismantling Dragon Dance's DPS line, and therefore their win con.
It was very expensive too. Dragon Dance had all 5, should have had that realistically. They didn't commit trance, but at this point, what are you saving it for? You're really not using it for anything. Wub will get healed up there, and again, you know, you have trance. You don't have anything to do with it, though. Timeless is coming into Amp. They have 3 up, both of their DPS ults. This is just not a good spot. Shaq's probably going to hold on to that transfer now, because there's nothing to do with it until later. This is just going to be a dry push here from Dragon Dance until they can maybe find some hope.
This is just going to be a poke battle, or potentially you look at Petal to pop off here. There's just not much in the pocket, and you don't want to overcommit anything, especially when you have nearly 3 minutes on the clock. There's no rush to get anything done here. Get the resources out. You do force that Transcendence with a Dragon Strike and get scuffed. This is best case scenario right now for Dragon Dance. Excal got that opening on in, dash straight into the backline, is going to be able to close this one out.
I mean, you'll take that. You trade your trance to get the rest of that point. I think you're pretty content with that if you're Dragon Dance. You'll take that. You've got 2.5 minutes, make it 3.5 by the time it rolls over, and yeah, that's fine. The problem I think now, Shaq going to pick over on into the Lucio. Little low healing. I don't hate that, but I do have to give a little bit of concern. Onda has been keeping Excal alive and also playing alongside Moving Fish, so I really love the positioning of Dragon Dance. This Brigitte was a bit of a question mark, but it's really showing to work in their favor between adding some support and some staying power in Moving Fish and giving Excal the power to stay, but the ultimates are up for Timeless now.
If the ultimates are up for Timeless, and that is, if they don't get pressured out in the back, XL sneaking away with 14 HP to spare, but Timeless aren't doing so hot in that category either. So their players got so low with those gravitic fluxes coming into play, but not having the support. Dragon Dance, they're relying on this rally. Onda's gotta get in there, take that space, get aggressive, and it's enough for Petal to get that headshot onto Pummy at all, forcing the Transcendent from Sobek. This is expensive for Timeless, so Evan. Right now, they're still backing up. They haven't found that stabilizing factor. They don't have anywhere to plant their feet because Dragon Dance keep walking forwards.
I mean, it really, a lot of it is the credit of Onda and Moving Fish, who are just this impenetrable wall. It's a 2v1 on the front lines, and it's freeing up a lot more space for Excal to really get in the back lines here. Now with this Blade on deck, there's nothing against it. There's nothing to use even defensively. It's basically free. They just have to find value in it.
You just gotta find somebody. Down goes Sobek. XL looking for Pummy. Doesn't ever get it. Wub down again. Still, a lot of value's been gained. And Pub is done with no shot. No shot. Wub does this, right? Down. Look at the corner still has these sights up. Oh, Petal knows that those sights are there. This is winnable for Timeless. They have the rig grip. They have the time.
That's so nasty.
Winning the Widow duel. What is this player on right now? Soab, this is something that just should not happen. Wub is getting away with a murder.
Wub Nation rise up. That was nuts. He absolutely just put that back and just carried it through. That was absolutely, Excal should have had that, but Wub just decided he did not want to lose today, and I respect that. I mean, that was their best shot to close this out. 2 minutes on the clock now. They'll have Moving Fish's Flux. It's going to have to be a slow push here until they can build something else. Timeless just has the ultimate on their side. They'll have a Dragon Strike and an Ant Matrix, so they'll have all the space control in the world here going into this last push.
This point is so incredibly difficult to push because look at the high ground Timeless has at their disposal, and they don't even have the permanent flux to contest.
Wow!
What an aggression thrown from Clear 16, and Wub just to top it all off with the Shack head rolling around on the ground. Timeless have managed to stabilize so incredibly well here on the third point of Circuit Royale. While this is such a difficult point to go through, Dragon Dance have been shut down when the opportunities, it seems like they won the fight, but suddenly, Timeless, they find something new to work with.
They are making something out of nothing here, and they just stalled out until last fight here. So, I mean, it's dry from basically both sides. Pummy will have a Dragon Strike. Shaq will be coming into that trance. So, expect those two to get used against each other. And once you get past that, it's just going to come down to the neutral. And we've seen what Wub does in the neutral. I am watching out for Wub because he is probably going to have to swing this fight and the whole.
Wub's gotta come up big here. That's what won them these last couple fights is Wub just popping off. In the corner though, everybody on Dragon Dance knows where the Widowmaker is, and they're not gonna take any risks as a result. This is such a tight angle that Wub is holding. The straight up threat of having the Widowmaker on the field is ridiculous here. Timeless on those final 20 seconds. All they need to do is close out this fight, is to start that Gravitic Flux. You have the Transcendence in play. Moving Fish was not gonna be okay though. The Transcendence, it didn't make it across the map. Petal manages to get the trade out, but not having a tank here. Dragon Dance, there's nothing stopping Timeless from just straight up walking on them. Wub has the shield, but can't touch either way. Shaq managed to come up big there with a triple kill and clean everybody off the board, even with 2.5 seconds to spare on a very hard map to finish.
Yeah, that 2.5 seconds does a lot of lifting here. That's really the difference between going around again and possibly, never seeing it, never seeing a win here. So Dragon Dance, again, they looked clean in that first half. That last couple bit was a little bit of a struggle, but they looked clean in those first 2 points. They took those pretty dominantly. So it's, again, they just need to continue to keep Wub in control. The second Wub just has these sightlines and is able to click the heads, we've seen what he do. He will punish you. He will make sure that you do not see the end of that. And Timeless, they know their win count. They know it's just get these snipers into position and buy it. And it's going to be a long, long march down. Wub is going to opt into the Sojourn here. Interesting. I like a little bit more of the space control, especially because of Onda, who, you know what? I'm a believer now. I'm a believer in Sigma Brigitte here. I like this comp. I like this change. It really does put a lot of pressure. So really, if you are going to bring in the Sojourn, Pummy is going to pick it up, it looks like. If you're going to bring that in, I like it. It's a good answer to this stronger front line that Dragon Dance is presenting. The question mark still becomes, is Excal going to be able to get back and put Wub under enough pressure for Petal to really capitalize? That's going to be the thing I'm watching for, because really there's quite a few moving chess pieces, and it all comes down to, does Excal keep Wub in check?
There's so much pressure on XL right now. Petal has done a decent job about taking this Widowmaker duel with Wub, but it still is definitely in the favor of the Widowmaker on Timeless. So this has got to be XL coming up big here. You need to validate having Onda on this Brigida once again, which I think is much harder to do on the defense personally, because you already have the space that you're trying to set up upon, and you gotta wait for Timeless to push into you. Otherwise, you are utterly useless around these large corners, especially on first and second point here. So Dragon Dance, they're gonna go ahead and give up that space. Timeless, they've got that high ground at their disposal, which Pummy and Wub are absolutely going to utilize to the maximum. And it's all about getting this information, finding these shots, but XL instantly up there to try to knock them out. That's enough to push Wub out of position. That's all XL needs to do. You don't even need to get the elimination. If you can distract Wub and Pummy long enough, that's just immense value coming to the Genji.
Yeah, because like you said, it's not like we're going to be able to push Dragon Dance back. Not with the Brigitte backing the Sigma. Great deflect there. Really, you're playing for ultimates now, and Shaq dying to Wub though is not what you need to open this up.
No, absolutely not. XL lets their guard down for just a second, and wow, still manages to get Pummy off the back of it. But Dragon Dance, they are struggling in the health department right now. They gotta back off. You just gotta back off here. Give up a little bit of that space. Have Shaq come back. You have that orb. You'll have those discords. It makes it so much easier for XL to push in. And you know what? Getting this end back is gonna be huge, especially because Timeless, they don't got that support now. They're the ones. They're gonna have to play this long neutral game.
They are. The other problem for Dragon Dance here is that Brigitte Zen is such a slow heal comp. You're not going to get a ton of recovery fast and quick. You can't really afford for these fights to go on long. So cleaning these up and getting a foot down quick, it works in their favor. They really have to keep this in pressure here. Timeless coming into a flux, no answer on the other side. Onda coming in the closest next with the other flux. So Timeless should be able to push through here with the ultimates coming in early.
They ended up using the flux after losing Scuffed as well. I mean, this is saying they just don't have it. I mean, you just back off, don't commit anything else. You're down hard and hurting. And the fact that Dragon Dance, though, Soaf, didn't have to really do anything other than just let Petal get those picks. And even another one, this is just time that is wasting away for Timeless.
And yeah, that's not what you want to see here. We asked them to get Wub in check, and they certainly are doing that with a vengeance here. Almost 5 ups, almost 5 ultimates of wealth here for Dragon Dance. Their Dragon's pile of wealth is going to just continue up. It's just going to get past these supportive ultimates, and now Pummy picking up the Mei. We're going to try to force an isolation. It's an interesting change, but I'm not sold on it yet.
Either. We'll have to see what happens once Timeless are actually able to get close. And that Transcendence should be the thing to weather that storm, but I look over and see what XL has in their pocket, or rather the Sheed, that Dragon Blade, waiting for that prime opportunity to come out, that rally, that extra health boost. Should be the go button here onto the Dragon Blade of XL, slicing straight back in. Wub shall not escape, neither shall Clear 16. Still will never live with the Dragon Blade on disposal, but the job has been done. Dragon Dance, go ahead, pat their Genji on the back, and move on with the day.
Yeah, you'll take that. You're very happy with that, and XCal will play the Somber to get back. They know it's last fight time, and they know they are going to be a little bit behind here, but I mean, the difference maker now is that Shaq holding onto this trance is the only thing on the board. Clear is coming into that flux, but it's already covered. The rest of the ultimates are so far away, with Moving Fish being the next closest, that I don't see a world where Timeless really makes a push here, especially now that the Sombra is in play. We wanted to see if XCal had a Sombra in the pocket, and it looks like it's there.
Yep, XL had it. Wonder it wasn't Icon Bolt? I don't know. We'll have to talk about that later, but Rit is focusing on right now. Can XCal open this fight up? You even force Sobek over to the Brigitte just with that swap alone. This is a fight that Timeless want to win. More of a brawly comp than a pokey one at this time, and that's what they have to do. When you need to be on the objective, get that sustain. You're not going to win it with a double sniper when you lack that high ground control, and Wub going down. All of the contestation onto Petal is gone as free raid over the entire section of point A here, and has nobody looking at them from the top. This is a Dragon Dance showing that they sure can do the tango, and they're going to take one map off of Timeless here, and I think that in itself is an incredible achievement to come away with.
I mean, I mean this with all the love in the world. Did you really expect anything less? We know how good Moving Fish is at Sigma, and if there's one place that Moving Fish is really going to help lead successfully here, this was it. Wub going to take the Constellation 4K on the Widowmaker, by the way. Just insane by the time that was all done. But yeah, if this was the one place where looking, like if I had seen this in advance and said like Circuit Royale's here, but Moving Fish, Moving Fish is on the opposing team. I'd have been like, yeah, that makes sense. Moving Fish is a great Sigma. This is a map they know how to play. It's in their wheelhouse. They know how to play this. They know how to lead this. This makes sense to me that they would have. This makes sense that it's the one they take. And I think a lot of it has to do with, we were criticizing them, shame on us, for talking about, taking away from the norms, not playing what you're supposed to. But they really did make it their own, adding that Brigitte and really putting the pressure onto the front line, changed the game. You're used to playing that long-range sniper battle on Circuit Royale, but they really put Timeless in a bit of a, they made them scratch their heads and go, what is going on here? We can't win in what looks like should be our map.
And I think that's what's the interesting piece of this is what Dragon Dance just pulled out was unconventional. And if you're going to run something unconventional, that's what you look for, that element of surprise. You're catching your opponent off guard because who's a Genji and a Brigitte on this map if somebody's in their right mind? Dragon Dance, they pulled it out and they made it work to the maximum. And I want to give them big credit for that.
Yeah.
Here's my concern moving forward. This is realistically one of the only maps you're going to be able to run this composition on. And this is the only spot they found success. Largely in part, I think, to having Moving Fish in a spot that is very much their comfort zone. Moving on forwards, having Petal on the Widowmaker isn't the most practical solution on push or... on push where we're going to be ending up next. Unless we end up on a very, perhaps a Colosseo, we would see it come out, but it just doesn't seem like it's in their cards today. And this is kind of scary for them moving forwards. I love to see this flash of brilliance come from them here on Circuit Royale, but moving forward, I'd be a little terrified.
No, Tiny, flashes of brilliance didn't make it into the contenders. They lost out. But I understand what you're going for there. You're right though, because this is push. This is back to brawl. This is back to kind of what we saw in maps 1 and 2, and Winston Sombra dive is still really, really strong, and Timeless has shown that they can win on that with the simple threat of just a single Sombra hack. So like you have to be concerned about that. It's going to force you back into Moving Fish playing this Ramatra, who they looked good. I don't know it was their strongest, but you have to be a little bit concerned because like you said, you can't run that. Circuit Royale's the outlier, so it's gonna be a bit of a question mark going into this because this is definitely everything on the line for Dragon Dance.
Yep. Lucky for them, they're gonna have a little bit of more of that time to prepare as we are gonna head to a brief break before heading into map 4. So don't go anywhere. Stay tuned. We still have more of the Contenders series coming your way. Welcome back to the Timeless versus Dragon Dance matchup. We made it all the way to map number 4. Timeless went down. Map number 3, Dragon Dance crawling back from the very brink of their very first defeats here in the Contenders Summer Series. But now is all on to map 4, where arguably favored, we gotta say Timeless, no matter what push map this goes to. It's looking like their map. Unless Dragon Dance can show us whatever unconventional playstyle that they've been going with, it suddenly decides that it's gonna work out here. I'm feeling like we're looking at a 3-1.
Yeah, that feels right, and I hate saying that because I really do want to see more out of Dragon Dance. You know, this collection of collegiate players really is showing off quite a lot. You know, you're seeing quite, like you said, flashes of brilliance earlier, moments where they're coming through and the teamwork looks impeccable and they're able to make, you know, phenomenal plays, but it's just not enough when you look at the teamwork that Timeless has been putting in on it.
It's not consistent enough to really be considered a valid strategy here. And that's really the thing. You try to run this very specific thing that you are good at. It's in your comfort zone. That's what you want to do.
Yeah.
But the second it doesn't work, you need to be able to also recognize that and start to adapt from there. And we just haven't seen that yet. And moving into a push map, push is not a forgiving map type whatsoever. If you screw up in the beginning, you are in for a mountain of a climb in the back half of that map. So this needs to be close from the get-go. Eichenwald was not close in the slightest. That was probably the fastest it could have gone, realistically. And, you know, we look at Circuit Royale, that went a little bit longer. That was definitely more favored the way of Dragon Dance, but when you can't run that same composition, both of the other things they've tried to do previously got utterly decimated. What are you expecting to do here? What is going to change to prove that they can keep par with these strong teams such as Timeless?
I think the one thing that may work in their favor, and you know, we're talking about how Dragon Dance has been kind of pulling from comfort picks and different takes, is on Esperanza. You know, you've shown that you have the Sombra. You've shown you have these various pieces, and I do think that is something that can work. You know, these maps, especially these push maps, are starting to get more solved, and we're starting to understand that Esperanza is more of a dive map. So you have to use that to your advantage. You know, like you said, if you're going to play these comfort picks or these little tricks that kind of sneak you out and give you a little bit of advantage, you have to know what it's going to be here. And the thing is, versus Timeless dive, man, what tricks do you have left? You kind of almost have to match. You showed the Sombra finally, and it did work for the little bit you have it. But I think at some point you just kind of have to match it. It's just kind of too, you know, there's too much on the line right now. This is go home. You know, you're going to lose your round 1 if you lose here. So I think you just have to kind of throw it to the best thing you've got and go from there, which means, I think is going to mean that we're going to see Petal over on the Sojourn. We're probably going to see Xcal. I don't know. Xcal has kind of shown us a little bit of everything, and I applaud that flexibility, but it's going to be a question mark. Yeah, they are going to pick up the dive on both sides, and that's what I wanted to see. You know, this has to be the chance. This is the only chance you're really going to get to show the mirror and show that you can beat them in it, and then you might as well. The question mark to me is, does Wub stay on, you know, does he go to the Hanzo? Does he pick up the Tracer? Because we've seen Wub's Hanzo. It was phenomenal in those previous maps. His Tracer was no joke either, but it's, you know, I think it's a toss-up as to what he runs out on. It's probably going to be the Tracer simply because that comp is so strong, but you know, I wouldn't hate to see the Hanzo here either.
No, I wouldn't at all. Wub is taking their time, thinking about what they're going to do. Going to be the Tracer in the end of the day. And I like that, honestly. Yeah. You're going to have much more contention against Petal, who has arguably been having the strongest performance we've seen from Dragon Dance thus far. So having that bit of contention on the Tracer end isn't the worst thing in the world. Here is where things get interesting, though. The combination. Timeless? They know what they're doing. They're throwing in that bio nade. You saw Scuffs hit that immediately. The manual hack came in all onto Moving Fish. That's the coordination. Dragon Dance, they're scattering to get this through. It doesn't seem like there's a clear plan on the field. Like, oh, should we go in now? Should we go in now? How about here? Moving Fish has been just trying to run away, keep their health bar at least up to half HP, because Timeless has been pushing on full strength. All of the cooldowns abilities focused onto that take. I mean, Moving Bash has no chance out here, Soab.
I mean, you can see it. They're trying so hard to create the space and try to create this engage, but Timeless is just waiting out these Winston dives, these cooldowns, bubble goes down, the jump away has happened, and you can see Kuffa just make that counter dive, and that is just the littlest bit of a difference that will work in their favor as they get this initial push. And I mean, also, I guess it's worth noting, Pummy already 90% to the EMP, addition to Kuffa, who's already on that. Like, they have just built more of their ultimates from the raw damage, so they'll just continue to keep this advantage going here. They should just be able to execute this this EMP onto somebody, probably Moving Fish, and create that isolation.
Yep, you're immediately going out with the EMP here. You do lose Pummy, but Moving Fish going down, arguably the stronger pick, but Timeless, now they have the task of cleaning this up without their DPS time, but with the support, that's not going to be a problem whatsoever. The stick coming in nice and pretty from Petal, but it's not going to amount to much here. The Nano Boost coming out onto Sobek. I just wouldn't want to be anywhere near that raid boss if I were you. Cal didn't really have a choice. They do lose the robot, which is a little bit of a time bag. Dragon Dance might have an opportunity to get back and regroup before the checkpoint comes back.
Yeah, I mean, you're fine with that though. Timeless was building that advantage they got now is a little bit squandered though. Scout does have their own trance up. They have both support ultimates, so I mean, they are primed to hold this. They just have to hit the EMP and capitalize.
Yep, EMP's out under a couple players, get stuck out of the way. Everything else should fall into place with their keyword should fall into place. Wob got the dick. Kappa followed up. Yeah, this is what we're talking about. Excal hit the right players with that EMP, got scuffed out of the fight, but Dragon Dance, they didn't know whether to look in front of them or behind them there. They looked lost, and Timeless, they had a plan going into this. If they lost a few, it was a-okay because they knew this checkpoint was going to go towards them.
Yeah, they'll get the butt scratch, and that'll be continuing to push forward here. Anda did manage to save Rally. It's the only thing really on board, and it's going to be super important to maybe keep Pummy in check. They have to really just continue to pull that. I mean, oh wow, Wub dying on that flank means that, I mean, Dragon Dance just now gets control for free. That's a great comeuppance for them.
Was that 2 shots from Shaq? Is that how that happened?
I think so, yeah.
Wow, great plays from Shaq, and they lose Pummy. And the fact to this is Timeless. They're getting staggered a rare moments of we're dropping the pasta a little bit here. We need to see this full regroup because Dragon Dance essentially bought themselves another spot. I mean, close spawns are going to be activated. They haven't been canceled yet. Still 0.56 meters. Timeless, they're going to have Wub and Pummy already back in this fight. Nobody daring to go near that that robot at all. Bounce you with the EMP into place. Pummy popping it out good, but Scuff fell into a pulse bomb. Not exactly where you wanted to find your feet after jumping off a bridge. Dragon Dance, they might be able to keep this one rolling on forwards just because the amount of time that Scuff just found themselves caught out.
The other thing that worked in their favor is just using everything, using other ultimates later, and worked in their favor. Anda's late rally really did a lot, and that was what I was going to say is I really do want to see them keeping check on this Sombra, and Anda saving the rally for that was huge, especially considering now Excal has their own EMP up. Last one wasn't as successful, but there's no defensives in their way.
Really nothing coming out here. It only hits on the Kappa, who is somehow alive. Okay, there goes Sobek. That makes me feel a little bit better about that EMP success after all, but what we've learned is that Dragon Dance, when they lose their tank, they have a hard time. It's like they're running around without their head attached to their body. So the Dragon, quite defenseless here, especially when Kappa leaps in with that Nano Boost a little bit short of finding that initial damage. With that second leap and Primal Rage, that's going to be bye-bye support. So more specifically, Shaft on the suit to follow with all the pressure being placed up upon them. This is Timeless. They know where they need to put their resources. They put all their eggs in the basket of Kappa, and he delivered.
I mean, you can trust the Australian tank. He knows what he's doing. He's been at this for a while, and I think you're in the right call. So 70 meters and climbing for Timeless. No ultimates. They're coming into their rally. Not much to go with it, though, versus the Nano and the Pulse Bomb. So Dragon Dane's a few more tools. I mean, they should be able to sneak this out, but it's probably just going to be a pretty dry fight until someone catches an opening here.
Yeah, it's going to be one of those points that we're just going to be in that neutral. Who's going to find them? And it's either going to be a Pulse Bomb or this Nano Boost putting on the pressure. You see it applied onto Sobek, but with that rally, I'm hate to say it, that Brigade is not going down anytime soon, especially to a Winston here. It did buy a little bit of breathing room for Dragon Dance, though. They now have the opportunity to consistently contest this high ground, but they catch Shaq. Scuff took an Ana duel that you don't expect to take, and without Shaq, there's absolutely zero hope for Moving Fish to be able to stay alive. And Timeless, they're going to keep this robot walking on right forwards.
I feel for Moving Fish, who's really desperately trying to take the space and create the chaos, really trying to get Shaq, trying to give Shaq in a line of sight that they can keep them alive in. But unfortunately, Scuff just continues to, we were wondering about this about Scuff today. We hadn't known much about him, but they are putting in quite a clinic on this Ana. So DPS ultimates up for Timeless means that this is basically as good to go. The Pulse Bomb doesn't miss, though. I mean, it's 2 down now for Dragon Dance. It's good as over.
This is done, both of those being the supports. You get the EMP. Yeah. That should be fight, and Timeless, please regroup this time. Don't stagger yourselves out. Both Kami, look.
They have to. They're all in spawn. They have to regroup at this point, right?
Please don't do this again.
I'm begging you, please. I mean, Dragon Dance is still holding on to. They still have a long way to go. They still have Primal. They still have this rally. Like, they have some tools. It's versus the EMP of Pummy, who's, you can see it. I really do think Anda needs to be, just keeping and finding Pummy ASAP, because that is their answer to really preventing him from getting the value on this.
part of
So deep, moving fish, no.
Onto an EMP too. Moving fish is in. Wow, so far back. I mean, both the supports do end up getting lost on Timeless. The EMP didn't get anything done because the sustain, Timeless didn't have it. They couldn't follow up on extra that damage. So Dragon Dance, as much as I was about to start criticizing them, they made that work.
Yeah, that was a good execute. Yeah, that dive came up perfect. You got what you wanted out of it. You didn't commit too much either. You still managed to save most of your ultimates. You'll have Rally, you'll have Pulse Bomb. And Petal's been putting in some quiet work in the background. My concern, though, is, you know, Kuppa with this nano is going to be huge, especially in this tiny room.
But that Bionade forced out that Primal Rage. Ideally, you wanted to Nano Boost there into the Primal, but that's already been forced out. You had to flood a Nano Boost onto Sobek to negate the damage of the Pulse Bomb. Wow, all these resources, Timeless, they're using them so reactively. This is a rare moment from them. They can't get that initiation that has been their strong strength. Dragon Dance, they're choking them. At this point, there's no way for them to move it at all, so because the aggression that's coming out. Timeless, though, they managed to escape it. More specifically, Wub managed to escape it. That stick should be the end of Dragon Dance on this point. They made a run back. They got closer, but the hard part of, I said this at the beginning, if you get a bad start on push, it is very difficult to come back fully.
Yeah, it's 50 meters back now, and that is still, again, a harder point to pitch. Sub 2 minutes means there's a couple fights left, but the ultimate's now just favoring Timeless. They'll have Sobek's Rally up here, and that's plenty defensive. EMP is still a little bit far behind for XCal, so these next couple fights, I mean, Dragon Dance is just going to have to try to build these ultimates as quick as they can.
Yeah. They're so close to that EMP. XCal has to get out of there. No, but they had to pull it down. The stun from Sobek didn't have the translocator available. That is case scenario for Dragon Dance right there. Worst case, Wub is still pushing this bot behind you. The time that Dragon Dance have to work with while that goes down, the task they have to do, it's so far back. They had to back out of the fight they were taking Soab just to get the bot.
Well, this is what we were afraid of, right? Timeless knows how to play this comp. They know how to position and they know where to bait the dives. And Moving Fish has been just constantly taking the bait. And the counter dive from Kuppa there is the exact proof. They do lose Sobek, but I mean, there's nothing in there.
No. What are you really doing? You're forcing all those resources out of Dragon Dance right now. You got that Primal to be able to move that payload back, but in just enough time, Wub pushed that robot a couple more meters, and those meters are going to be key here. These forward squads, they're going to try to be forced. If Kuppa can get back safe and sound, then this fight's going to be taken so quickly, and Dragon Dance, they got ultimates to work with, but they actually need to work this time.
They have to, and this is their last shot to it. We're coming into 30 seconds, it's last fight, so this EMP needs to be huge and it needs to be followed up on. You have Pulse Bomb, you have Rally to go with it. You do have a couple on the other side, but you should be able to capitalize just like that, and no more. So let's just save this, let's just take the bot and go. And if you're Timeless, you know, you're just building up ultimate. You just have 3 on board, you just want to be able to press Q and win at this point. I think that's your best shot to stopping this because Dragon Dance they have so much ground to make up on.
Not the end of the road. They still have to make it halfway through this point of Esperanza, and the Timeless, they got the regroup. Look at what is in their disposal. If Petal can come up with a Pulse Bomb big right now, get somebody ideally scuffed out of the fight, maybe this can work out, but Boomy's out. They're out hunting right now. They just hack, wanted to come in. You force the Sombra out of the path. The EMP is inevitable. Hits onto 3. Kuppa leaping into the battle, finding the Sombra out in the corner. Doesn't have that translocator quite yet to move on through. He needs to be able to make something happen. It's going to be Petal to win out that first duel. Dragon Dance, they are still in this. The Nano Boost has managed to come back up online. Moving Fish, pressuring the players back into this corner. They don't have the tank. Timeless, they can afford to regroup just one last time to push this through, but now they don't have anything to work with. If they get staggered out, this is going to be it. They got XCal. That needs to be turned into so much more. Kuppa doesn't have the health right now to keep the contest up. Neither does Wub. The recall isn't there. Can't stay around as long as he would like to. Dragon is, they have the numbers. They have the cohesion. So that Bionade chucked in has to go. You have to go in on that. They're so gosh dang low. There goes Moving Fish. The rally in. Stunned up. Sobek going in. Flail ablazing. This is Timeless. Closing it out in the end, proving that they are the stronger team and starting with a great 1-0 to their record in the Contenders Summer Series.
Sobek being the hero they needed in the moment, and it came from the support line for Gita. You know, credit to Wub, who's been putting on quite a clinic in this, but unfortunately just was kept in check by Sobek in a lot of ways. You know, you recognize that the Brigitte is putting a lot of work and is playing and keeping the Winstons in check and keeping those dives really in check, and That's valuable. That's so valuable in this meta for your Brigitte to be able to have that head on a swivel and really know where they need to lend the support to be able to keep your healing up and then also defend. Oh, man, here we are. I mean, we knew it was going to be a 3-1, but
Yep.
Timeless, to Dragon Dance's credit, it I don't think that really is a fair accurate. I don't think that's a fair score. 3-1. It was really close in a couple of these.
We don't talk about Eichenwald. But if we look
Yeah.
at Esperanza, that did go a
That was
lot
really good.
farther than I did expect it to. I did think
Yeah.
that was going to be Timeless winning that out for earlier, but Dragon Dance, they did fight down to that very last second, and that does give me hope for their future within the Summer Series and with their performance as well. I mean, this is a team that I think steadily improved throughout the match. When they can play to their strengths,
Oh yeah.
they're not going down. They're unbeatable. But when there's force out of their comfort zone to something like such as this Winston dive or maybe pulling out a couple different heroes here and there, that's where I get a little bit more concerned about where that struggle is going to be. If they can just take the time to iron out these pieces and put them into place, this is a team that I think we can maybe see a contender in further down the line. That pun was unintentional, but it is there. I enjoyed it nonetheless.
I'm not mad about it. I've made worse puns. You're right. You're right. I mean, it is. And, hey, it's only game 1. There's still plenty more games to be had,
exactly.
and there's still plenty more to be seen. I mean, look, when you look at both of these teams, they have a long road ahead, and you can kind of see where they're slightly off from each other. We'll see. Timeless taking on Good Boys next, and if you follow along, I'm sorry, Dragon Dance taking on Good Boys next. That's just where we'll be, and Timeless will go ahead and pick it up over to, I believe that's Strix, in the next week. But that's going to be it over here on Timeless. So, I mean, I think if you're Timeless, you're thrilled with that. That's a great opener, and you're very happy for a 3-1.
Great start to your season. This is their season. I really can feel it, and I did find out later on that Doom's internet actually ended up going down halfway through that. Which is why
that's
we saw
funny.
Pummy coming
That's
in.
unfortunate.
The fact that Pummy is your second man on the flex.
Yeah.
They're fine. I mean,
Pummy put on all
Pummy
work,
is great. Doom did amazing on map number 1. I would have loved to see what they did further down the line, but if you got Pummy to come in, as if you can even call that a backup or a substitute at that point, this team is pretty gosh darn scary looking further down into these matches. So if you got Timeless on your next opponent matchup, I'd be a little worried, especially in the next one coming forward. That's not where we will be heading, though. We do actually have the pleasure of following Dragon Dance down the line. So we'll be seeing them in their next match against Good Boys, which will be on a different channel. That's it for Timeless. We'll be heading over to Good Boys. So if you want to go ahead and check that out, we'll be getting that started just in a couple of moments. But thank you all very much for joining us today, supporting the Tier 2 community. As always, it's been Tiny Shiny and Suave Danum, and we'll see you on our next match.